Hi, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are around the world. My name is Rose Joshua. Welcome to Family and Finance. In this program, we provide you with free information that will help you with your financial decisions. In my previous two videos, I started a series on systemic poverty, and today we're going to continue with part 3 of that topic. So I'm going to share my screen. And in this episode, we're going to talk about how systemic poverty is enforced. So we're asking the question, how is systemic poverty enforced? Okay. So in the last two parts 1 and 2, we did a review and established that about 20% of the people control about 80% of the economy. And in Canada is a 20-40-40 systemic structure, and it's a 20-40-40 systemic structure pattern, okay? And that pattern remains and is repeated year after year, decade after decade. And the question is, how is it happening that is so stable like that? What is going on, right? And so how does 20% of the people control 80% of the economy year after year after year? And what are the 80% doing about it? So essentially how it works is that there's got to be layers of labor. And the key word there is labor, because the system is maintained by labor, okay, the labor force. And so we have to have layers where there's a bottom class, middle class, and upper class. And the labor force is mostly the 80%, not the 20% is working, but not as hard as the bottom 40 and the middle 40. And that's everyone below, in Canada, $80,000 in gross annual income. So we did actually look in depth in the last, in part 2 of this series. And so I'm just going to summarize here that really breaking it down into the 20-40-40 structure. The bottom 40 is 30,000 annual income and below. Middle 40 is 80,000 to 40,000 to 30,000, and upper 20% is 80,000 and above. So how does system poverty really work? You just need to understand that we're just statistics, we're just numbers. Okay, so in the grand scheme of things, we're just a number. And so we're part of a larger statistic, and we're laborers in the vineyard, so to say. So unless you get to the point where you get upset enough to take action and break the yoke from off your neck, you're going to be subject to the powers that be. And so how does systemic poverty really work? So in order to keep systemic poverty in force, some people have to be at the bottom. Somebody has to be there. And some people have to be in the middle because we need the structure to stand. We need a structure to not collapse. So for example, if you have a cleaner, and so you have a cleaner in a company, you must have the office staff, admin staff, different levels of management. Now, if the cleaner decides that, okay, you know what, I win the lottery, is the president now going to be the cleaner? No. They're going to find another cleaner to replace that one. So it's a vicious cycle where, somebody's got to be at the bottom. So different scenarios in a hospital, you must have doctors. Then among the nurses, you must have senior nurses, the RNs, then the LPNs, then the healthcare aides, and so on. So there's different layers of that workforce. And if you look at it from the engineering world, you must have an architect, then engineers, and then you must have everybody else who is taking care of the actual work, right? So plumbers, electricians, and so on. So basically, somebody must be at the bottom. And so the question that you want to answer is that you? And if it's not you, who? And if you're at the bottom right now, for how long? So those are questions that we need to answer. You and I can work on it offline, just so we can help you come up with a plan. So, definitely, of course, not everybody stays in the same spot for life. There are people who stay on the same job for life, or in the same position really, but not everybody is like that. So some people are restless, and so they decide to move up, but then when they move up, they are replaced by other people coming up. Now, as long as human beings are born, there will be always somebody who turns of age. So every year there's always people who turn 18. So if you look at different, places, you can see, the workforce remains about the same age, and it's not the same people. It's just changing people every year. So, new immigrants coming in, new people growing up, replace the bottom layer or whatever layer is affected. So how is the labor force kept at the bottom, really? So different strategies that the powers that be enforce systemic poverty. One of the key ones is inequality in education. And I wouldn't say it's really that the powers that be or the government forces people to not get educated. It's just that, people kind of have different levels of education based on the decisions they make. But some of the decisions are very systemic. So we're going to cover some of those systemic myths and gimmicks in future parts. But today we're just going to identify how systemic poverty is enforced. So you also have systemic poverty being enforced by inequality in wages. So men versus women, married women versus single women. There's all kinds of discrimination that may or may not be spoken. Immigrant versus non-immigrant, stuff like that. So there are differences in wages that force people to be in different layers. One of the biggest ones is systemic frustrations. So systemic frustrations are deliberate roadblocks, and they're in form of policies that are made by government or employers or other powers that make it really difficult for somebody to make a transition. So one very common example is let's say somebody comes in from another country and they were doctors or lawyers in the past in their former place. In order to become a doctor or lawyer in Canada, there's all kinds of roadblocks that, as a matter of fact, many people just give up. So systemic frustrations really define where people start. They really want you to start from the bottom. Okay, so systemic poverty is also enforced by deliberate denial of certain privileges to certain people. So depending on who you are, what you maybe different qualifications, known or unknown, you may or may not get certain privileges like maybe business loan, mortgages, stuff like that. Denial of access to information. So some people may have information hidden from them so that they cannot move forward. A workplace example that I have is what I call systemic celebration. And it's a common one, actually, it's a common one. So you can see somebody who has been in a particular position for many, many, many years, and they go, oh, I won Employee of the Year many, many times. And it's like, that's not such a good thing to be rewarded for just not making effort to move forward is very, very systemic. It's a systemic celebration. And so there's all kinds of gimmicks and scripts that laborers are kept in perpetual poverty with. So for example, example of systemic script would be, let's see, so somebody is going for their annual review at work, and then you're told, oh, you're the best employee ever. We love your job. We love what you do, and crap like that. And then, unfortunately, we cannot give you a raise this year because, the economy is bad, and all kinds of scripts, all right? So they will give you those lines. So unfortunately, we love you, but we cannot give you a raise. Meanwhile, the same person who is telling you we love you, we cannot give you a raise, just got a raise of 10%. So very, very systemic, where you're kept in perpetual poverty just to keep that system running. Other probably the most fundamental enforcement strategy is mindset programming. So mindset programming is a big Pandora's box and can of worms. And there's all kinds of millions and millions of books on mindset and millions and millions of, YouTube videos and whatever, all kinds of things on mindset. Mindset is big. Everything really that you do depends on your mind. So when your mindset is programmed negatively, you're in a big problem. You have a big problem to worry about. So systemic poverty has a lot of mindset programming in it, and we're going to talk about them in the next few weeks. Okay. So the key thing is being programmed to think that certain things are correct, whereas they're not. All right, and there are many examples. So one of the common mindset programming in Canada is this 20% down payment. It's terrible for consumers, but a lot of people think 20% is the way to go. Really bad for the consumer. But we're going to look at that in the next week or so. Another mindset program is group benefits. So when people have benefits at work, they think they're good to go, but that's a real trap, and that's a big systemic trap for many people. So we'll explore some of these in the next couple of weeks. So where do you go from here? How do we navigate around systemic poverty? One thing is you need to, first of all, understand the problem. And I'm hoping that in the past 3 videos, including this one, that you're getting a clearer picture of systemic poverty and how it affects you. So you need to understand that, we're simply numbers, like I said. It's just a simple statistic. Nobody really cares about you, but you have to care about yourself. So, you need to understand that. No emotions. I've heard some people say, oh, my job, I love my job. They love me. It is good to know that, people at work love you, but in the grand scheme of things, when it comes to system, you're just a number, okay? So only you can really care about yourself, and only you can really liberate yourself, because it is a form of slavery. So is workplace slavery or systemic slavery or whatever you want to look at it as. But you got to liberate yourself, and only you can do that. So we need to ask questions. One of the reasons we fail ourselves is we're not asking questions. We're not asking questions. And even when we ask, we're not asking the right questions. We're not asking enough questions. We're not challenging the system. And so we need to ask a lot of questions. And we also need to identify what part of the system we want to be in. Do we want to be in the top 20%? How do we want to get there? All right, so that's really what this is about. So let's come connect with me and let's develop your prison break strategy. I call it prison break for those of us who have watched that series. So prison break strategy, let's discuss that. And so this is the end of part 3. And in part 4, we're going to look at how systemic poverty is maintained. So in this part 3, we looked at how it is enforced. In part 4, we're going to look at how it is maintained. And so if you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe, and please share with your friends and family and have them subscribe as well. And if you want to break free from systemic poverty, be sure to connect with me, Rose Joshua, 780-680-1334. And thank you so very much. And God bless you, and have yourself a great rest of the day. Thank you.